Hi, welcome to Invictus Motors, and I've got this incredibly gorgeous Porsche 911 here right behind me that I would like to review as part of this video. And just standing amongst Porsches, I've got a 997.2, which is the successor to the 997.1. There's a 991.2 Carrera S, a 2016 plate 911. These have become turbocharged, and a Porsche 981 came in GTS. But this is a very special car because it holds a special place in my heart because of the way they drive, and in terms of the Porsche 911 3.8 litre naturally aspirated engine it has, and the overall design and the silhouette that this generation of 911 has, both from a driving point of view and from the way they're designed aesthetically. I think ultimately are probably the last of the truly gorgeous, beautifully driven, characterful 911s, because subsequent to this they became direct fuel injected, which is what you find in a 997.2. Yes, it irons out some of the issues of the IMS and the rear main seals, but this being a very late 997.1, it already has an upgraded IMS bearing, and they suffer from scoring. They're less likely to suffer from scoring in comparison to the earlier 997.1s, which were 3.8 litre. And before I can actually get into reviewing this any further, talking about this car any further, and taking it out for a test drive, I'd like to just mention that we earn out of YouTube. That money we donate to a UK registered charity, and we do a lot of good work with that in Afghanistan. So I do appreciate you guys actually watching the video, supporting us, supporting the channel. And ultimately the review is done to kind of give you my view and my opinion on what they're like, what they drive like, how they handle, how these cars look with a normal average sized human being next to it, and just going through all its functionalities and overall the way it changes gears and the way the exhaust system sounds and the way the engine sounds really. So I'll get right into this. This is in a cobalt blue metallic. To me, it's probably by far one of the most desirable and liked paintworks, complemented with the 19-inch Carrera Sports alloys with the xenon headlights. And just to sort of bring you to the back of this 911, this is where it gets really interesting for me, because this being the Carrera S, it still has that nimble, narrow-bodied shape, and underneath this hood is where we find the 3.8 litre naturally aspirated engine. So underneath the hood is the 3.8 litre naturally aspirated engine that this produces 350 brake horsepower, 480 Newton meters of torque, and the top speed of 183 miles per hour. And I'm not sure if I mentioned the 0 to 62 miles per hour. That's possible in 4.5 seconds. And this has already been bore checked, and we've done a compression test on it. So I'll shut this engine now, and just that rear end of it, to me, when it comes to a classic Porsche, it genuinely doesn't get any better than this. But to kind of review this any further and get into the ins and outs of this, I think we need to take it out for a drive. So let's get into the driver's seat. Getting into a 911 is just a nice feeling. Every time I get into one of these, just to touch, feel the steering wheel, find the controls and the settings for the seats, adjust the steering wheel, just buckle into it. It's a very satisfying feeling. Finally in it. And off I go. Just over the past 10 years, everything that I needed to kind of know about 911s, the knowledge, information, you know, the whole business, the whole passion in relation to Porsches, it all really came about from the water-cooled Porsche 911, the 996 generation, which were built from 1998 to 2004. And at the time, we simply didn't have the budgets or the funding in place to be able to get into stocking too many of these 997s. So we were just fortunate to be able to get one or two here and there in stock, drive it for just a bit whilst they're in your stock to continue learning about them, and ultimately enjoying them for what they're meant to be, which are sports cars. And this is going to go through this very similar journey of taking this out for a test drive now, through this village initially, just in sort of slow speeds, 130 miles an hour, and going through these gears, shifting down, going up to the fourth gear, and back down, just working it like you would when it's a Porsche 911. It being a 6-speed manual transmission, it's very satisfying to drive, and the gearing, to some degree, I would say they're slightly medium range in terms of how long or the length of the gears are, and even when you're actually just going from first, second to third, it's a very satisfying feeling to do exactly that. Now I'm in fourth gear, coming up to this bend, the first real test of just seeing what the whole chassis is like in terms of handling. Is there any undesirable noises or just sounds from the chassis or from the car overall? One of our cameras dropped. The 3.8 litre naturally aspirated flat 6 boxer engine in this produces 350 brake horsepower, 400 Newton meters of torque, and a knock to 62 miles per hour possible in 4.5 seconds, and a top speed which is impressive, giving us 183 miles per hour, and that's just from a 911 Carrera S. And at the sort of values these are currently in the market, I mean, this is, you know, in the mid £20,000. You want to get into the ownership of a well-spec'd, well-maintained 911. It might not be everybody's cup of tea, because this is a car that's designed and built to be driven with a hydraulic steering wheel and slightly stiffer gear changes, almost old school classic braking. And right now we're doing about, I'd say, 60 miles per hour, and the way it handles around these bends takes my breath away, and it's a very satisfying process to feel this from your car and the input that you get, you know, to the steering wheel. And so sort of the next phase of this video is just to kind of discuss in a bit more detail the exterior and the interior. On the interior, it's got this extended leather interior, all consistent. The carpets, everything is in the same color, and it's just in phenomenal condition. The steering wheel, the seats, it's got the sort of 12-way electrically adjustable memory seats, with the fact that these seats feel like they sort of hold you incredibly well, because these are sports seats ultimately, with a 6-speed manual transmission, with a Chrono Sport Plus package, where you find the chrono watch, the sports button, and the damper control button there at the bottom, as well as this having the Bose premium sound system. And it being a 911, it's incredibly practical because you've got 2+2 layout. And ultimately, when it comes to a sports car, this is by far the most practical sports car you can find in the world of sports cars, as well as it having a front boot for some extra luggage space. Remember, thank you very much for watching this.